Well, hello there, ENGL 200 students, the fall of 2020. It's nice to meet you. I hope to meet you more personally at some point here. But this is the best we can do at present. This is an asynchronous class, as you know, so we're not going to have as much face-to-face time, even mediated by electronics, as I think would be ideal. But we're going to do our best to work around that. Well, what I'd like to do is just give you a brief overview of the syllabus and of our schedule and what we're going to be doing, when we're going to be doing it to a degree, and just kind of get you going here, get this enterprise of ours launched. So we'll try to keep this brief, but also informative. ENGL 200. Literary Study, Research and Criticism, Spring 2020. I think that's 200.0003, to be more accurate. I think you've probably seen, or you may have seen if you've explored the site at all, my little profile. There's not much to it. There's my name for you. Brick and mortar office, Revasol 321. Not sure that we'll be making much use of that this semester. Office hours, now I've listed them right now as noon to 1 p.m. Okay, on Tuesdays and by appointment. But that is something that we can change if not many people are available at that time. So this is something that I'll be asking you guys about going forward. I'm not going to go through the course description right now because I trust that you have read it. And it will become pretty clear pretty soon what it is that we're doing in this class, which is a little bit of everything. As you may have already discovered, and you certainly will discover over the course of the course. Now, the required text, there's only one addition to what you've already seen online, in addition to the Abrams and Harpham Glossary of Literary Terms, the MLA Handbook, 8th edition, or later, or I know how that goes. There may be some earlier editions around. I think you do want one of the later editions because, of course, the earlier editions don't take into account this remarkable change that we have, endured, enjoyed in the past 10, 15 years with respect to so much stuff going online, right? So there's all kinds of new rules, and the newer MLA handbooks have them. That's one of the reasons why I'm having you buy the handbook. Typically, I would not do that, but I think these days it's a good idea. The Norton Introduction to Literature, this is the one that you really want to be thinking about right now. I hope that you've already bought it. A few of you have, more than one, has asked me, what about the 12th edition? And yes, the 12th edition will work if your roommate has a copy of the 12th edition of the Norton Introduction to Literature, shorter edition, edited by Kelly Mays. The 12th actually might have more than just Kelly Mays, no relative. She has an S in her name, no relative of mine. I think it'll be recognizable as the same book, but it may have some other editors. I'm not sure when she took it over. She used to do it with about 3 other editors. So I think the 12th is also just a Kelly Mays book. But it's a 12th edition. Make sure you get the shorter edition. That's if you're going to get the 12th. Same for the 13th. Okay, and either one of those should work just fine. The sooner you get that, the better, for all kinds of reasons that will become clear very soon. Now, I wanted to mention finally, we're going to be reading, maybe you noticed this, not that we necessarily be reading Kafka, but I like Kafka imagery. I like pictures of Kafka. I'm that sort of guy, I guess, right? We're going to be reading the Metamorphosis, the Edwin Muir edition, okay, or translation rather. And to make sure that we're all on the same page, and also to save you a few dollars, I have gotten the URL for a very sound edition at the University of Pennsylvania website. Okay, and you'll see it right there under D. So you don't have to go out and buy that book, but what I would like you to do is to download and print this one out. Okay, so that we can discuss it just as though it's another bit of paper, right? I'm got a little bit of a bias towards paper, a little bit old-fashioned in that sense. Okay, this is a part of the introduction. I think a lot of people prick up their ears when we get to this part. The coursework, right? You see how it's broken down. I think those numbers add up to 100. In fact, I'm mortally certain that they do. The way this will work is you see these fairly small units. We don't have any gigantic assignments that are worth like 40% of the class, of your grade for the class. We have rather a number of smaller units. And even the smaller units themselves are broken up into smaller units. So this is very much the kind of class in which if you stay up with it and you get into a good routine, get into the swing of the class, get the work done week by week by week, you're going to be in very, very good shape. Also, it must be said that if you don't do so, in other words, you take weeks off or somehow just go away for 10 days or what have you, or don't keep up with it, you'll fall behind. So that you want to be warned about that. And from the very beginning, dedicate yourself to sticking with this schedule that we're going to have that I'll be explaining here in a few moments. That can seem a bit complicated at first, but once the routine gets going, I've noticed, I've done this before, students seem to get in the swing very quickly and have no difficulty knowing what to do when. Well, let's break down what's required of you. We've got this weekly discussion board participation that I want to talk about here in a few moments when we get to the actual introductory pre-module, okay, where we have a more granular, as I've been describing it, schedule telling you what to do for the first 2 weeks, practically day by day. Okay, so we're going to get to that very shortly here. But it's worth noting, even in passing here, that this is a very important part of the class, as you will see, what happens on a weekly basis by way of the discussion board. Because, of course, we're not meeting face-to-face, this is it. This is the substitute for coming to class and coming into class prepared and having something to say. It's what happens on these discussion boards that isn't so much, or is in, to such a degree of what we do, what we're doing. Now, of course, we'll also have assignments in addition to the weekly discussion board participation. And I'm not draconian about this. You will notice if you look down to the bottom of number 1, note everyone is allowed 2 weeks off. That actually has to be edited, doesn't it? Everyone is allowed 2, but just 2 weeks off. And the third misses 0 will be recorded. And what that means is you get to take 2 weeks off from the discussion board. I'm aware that there are going to be certain weeks where it's just going to be, you have a 75-page paper due in history, right? Or you've got a big calculus exam, something like that. So what I would suggest is that you husband, so to speak, using that term as a verb, conserve your 2 days and your 2 weeks and use them. You don't have to use them, by the way. I'd love to hear from you every week without fail. But save them for when you really need them. I think it'd be a big mistake to not participate the first 2 weeks of the semester. That doesn't strike me as a wise way of proceeding. Well, we also have these quizzes, and it will become very clear as well what those are all about. And again, when we get to the granular, pre-module, which is just basically a module, but it's the introductory module, so I'm calling it a pre-module. You will hear a little bit more about this. But these are reading quizzes, and they cover the material assigned to that day. Typically what I do is when I assign them, you'll see them assigned in the little module granular schedules, which I'm about to explain to you. I usually explain exactly what is covered in the quiz at that point. But the quizzes are mostly going to cover not stuff out of Abrams as much, okay, but by and large the literature that we read, the poems that we read, Antigone, the plays, Trifles, Death of a Salesman, the Metamorphosis and the short stories, Barn Burning, right, Hills Like White Elephants, these short stories, the fiction, the literature, the drama, etc., is what the quizzes cover. And once again, once we get into the swing of it, this will become very clear. You'll probably have 12 of those or so, sometimes a few more, sometimes a few less, just given that circumstances dictate that I decide that, hey, no, don't give them a quiz this week. Or, hey, this would be a good time to give a quiz. Yeah, these quizzes, notice here too, there's some wiggle room. Is it wriggle room? No, it's wiggle room. Built in. Quizzes, they may not be made up. In other words, if you miss a quiz, you can't say, hey, can I take that quiz? I'll say no. I'll say it nicely, but I'll have to say it. It's a policy, okay? You have a lot of flexibility with these online quizzes, so there's really no excuse for missing the deadline for the quiz. But let's say you don't do so well on a particular quiz. Well, guess what? I'll drop 2 of them, right? And this will work out really well if you have 12 quizzes, because then I'll just be able to, divide by 10. Your 10 quizzes to come up with your 10%. So let's hope we have 12 quizzes. That's for me to worry about, not you. Okay, in addition, we've got some one-page assignments due on certain Sunday nights that will be specified in the schedule, okay, which you're probably not going to see right away. The schedule is, right away means now, but soon enough, probably by Thursday, the schedule will be out. I have to see how many of you are actually going to show up for this class. I hope every one of you who originally signed up then shows up, but the schedule does depend upon that in a little bit. So we have these little one-pagers that'll be due on certain Sunday nights, okay? About 5 of them over the course of the semester, and those are going to be worth 10%. An example of such an assignment will be a bibliographical assignment I give you as we approach the more research end of the semester, which is towards the end of the semester, when you're going to be writing just a 4-page paper. It's not a big paper, but it's going to have a heavy research quality to it. Okay, so that you'll leave this class knowing exactly how to write a paper and do so properly, according to all the rules and all the protocols and all the format. So, yeah, one example would be this bibliographical assignment that I'll be giving you. And it'll be due on the week in question. It will be due at 11:59 p.m. that night. That week on that Sunday. So you'll be given plenty of notice about those as well. So, and they'll be on the schedule when the schedule comes out very soon. You also have a smaller paper, shorter paper, a short literary analysis, a squib as I call it. And that will also be due on a Sunday night. And anything that is due that's not part of the discussion board or the quizzes will be due on Sunday nights at 11:59 p.m. And that will be due a little bit before the midterm moment. Again, it'll be on the schedule. Then you have the longer paper, which is due at the end of the semester, the final week. You have a midterm exam and a final exam. The midterm will be due a little bit after midterm. I usually call it, or I sometimes call it a late term, or a late midterm, or an after midterm examination. It'll be a little bit after the midterm week, probably in week 9. Okay. In fact, I have it written down on the schedule, but I don't remember precisely what I decided. So you'll be seeing that soon enough, right? When the schedule is published here in a day or two. And the schedule is the kind of master schedule, not the granular week by week thing. So you can really have 2 schedules. One of them a kind of more abstract overview of what's due when, and it has all this stuff on it, right? It's got all these things that you have on this page will be on that master schedule. Then you have the final exam, for example, will be on this master schedule. And then you'll have these little week by week granular schedules, which give you all the readings, remind you about the quizzes, remind you about the discussion boards and all the rest. So yeah, we do have a final exam, a little bit like the midterm, maybe a little longer. Usually not a lot longer. It's worth the same amount of credit. And that will come at the end of the semester. So something I should have mentioned earlier, but maybe it's something doesn't really need to be mentioned, which is that if you have any questions about any of this material that I'm working through somewhat rapidly, because I want to keep this as brief as possible, and let you get busy reading Antigone if you haven't already started reading Antigone, just send me an email message, send it over Outlook, right? There's probably a way to do it, to send me a message over Blackboard, but I have found that if we communicate personally and individually over Outlook, it really is the way to go. That way there's no way that somebody else maybe sees it, and you're sharing perforce some personal information with me. We don't want that to happen. So go by way of Outlook, which I will be using myself to get into touch with you individually. And as you can already tell, I think I don't know that I've sent you guys Outlook. My other course I have sent you an Outlook message, which is the email. That's the 0365 email program. But I almost certainly will be sending you messages. And I know it's a little crazy. I'll be typing in all your names. And we'll have a little kind of batch email device working for the class. So any questions you have, do not hesitate for a moment to send them to me. In the syllabus sheet, I have both of my email addresses that I look at constantly, like you, right? So just send me a message to either one of those, and I will get back to you very soon. If you ask me a question that I think has a general interest that other people are likely to wonder about as well, I'll probably send it to everybody. Okay, so here is that modular, granular is the term I've been using more often than modular. But you'll have one of these for every one of the modules. And when you first take a look at it, it might seem a little busy, right? But I think you're going to appreciate this as time passes, because what I've done here is laid it out for you throughout these first 2 weeks. You look over there in the left-hand column. We are now in that pre-module of the introduction. We haven't yet arrived in the first module. You'll look at the bottom right, end of the intro, move on to module 1. I prompt you to move on to the next module that you will see under the content, in the content drawer, under the content rubric on Blackboard. So it'll be very easy to find. And I will label it by weeks, right? Or week. This first pre-modular intro kind of module is 2 weeks long, and it runs from 8:24 to 9:04. And you will at 9:04 start module 1, okay, which I believe is, I'd have to go and look to make sure, but it's, I believe, just a 7-day module. So you would have module 2 starting at 9:11. You see how this works, and you just sort of work your way down. You've got your master schedule over there in the information drawer, and then you have these granular modular schedules, which break it down day by day practically, okay, and let you know exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it, etc. Mostly when to do it, what to do and when to do it, because I think you're going to figure out how to do it soon, right? This first one here, I'm explaining everything minutely. The next time, the next module will not, for example, tell you where to find the quizzes, because you'll know by then. In any event, here's the first one. I thought I'd work through it a little bit with you. I usually put over there in the left-hand column what I'd like you to read, especially the major literary works that I want you to read for that week. And you'll notice that I don't always put all of them, but I put the major ones. You'll notice I put Antigone as well as Trifles. So, and I'm also having you read some other stuff, as you'll see here shortly. So here's the way this works, okay? You look on the left, get past the intro, that left-hand, leftmost column, and you look at the column topics to read, to watch. You got another column over to the right, which is learning activities and assessments. I mean, this is pretty intuitive, is it not? So on the left, what you see is the stuff to read and to watch. And on the right, you see the stuff where you have to, like, not just read and watch, but maybe do something, like take a quiz or write up a discussion board response or write up a discussion board comment upon the responses, a response written by one of your fellow students. So this is pretty intuitive, I believe. Again, you will notice I ask you to, and this is it. This is the real thing now. We're in real time. So this is your assignment, right? By Thursday, this Thursday, which is 2 days from today, by 1:59 p.m., because you got a quiz at 2. Read Antigone, okay? That is, have it all read, finish it. I think some of you probably already have it read, because I think it was over a week ago, or roughly a week ago, that I invited you to begin to do the reading of Antigone, and certainly to get the book, okay? So if you haven't started, you certainly want to start soon, right? And as I put on the syllabus, you will recall I gave you a website to go to if you don't have the book yet, okay? If you don't have the Norton yet, we have this backup website to look at. By the way, it's a different translation, which is going to lead to all kinds of confusion, right? Well, not really. Well, maybe a little, but really valuable confusion, because one of the things we're going to be talking about here is just this fact of translation. We're going to have a whole unit on this, a whole module, I should say. We're going to have a whole module. I mean, it's going to be a big module, probably a 2-week module on the Metamorphosis, right? But at least a week and a half on the Metamorphosis, which is a German text originally, which had to be translated. It has to be translated for me to be able to read it. Maybe not you. I can read a little German, but not enough where I could really appreciate that the way that one of these master translators could help me to do so by translating it into English. I'll admit that. Yeah, so Antigone is also in translation. So we have we have one translation that is in the Norton. We have a different translation, which is, the one at the, I think it's a Bartleby. It might be a Gutenberg. Might be a Gutenberg website I'm sending you to. But they're two different translations. And some nice things can happen when you compare these two different translations. I'm looking forward to having that happen, in the discussion board responses, and just seeing what we take away from that. This little bit of discrepancy, in our readings. I think one of the things we'll take away from it is just the fact that translation matters, right? And that perfect translation has never been written. Translation is always a kind of interpretation. So read Antigone by 1:59 p.m. on Thursday, and by 1:59 p.m. on Thursday, also watch this. Okay, finish watching this. And honestly, the only reason I wanted you to be sure to do I want you to watch this video. Obviously, I want you to be sure to do it by 2 p.m. because at 2 p.m. we have a quiz. And for you to know what's going to be on the quiz and to know a little bit about the quiz, might help for you to watch this video. If you look over there in the right-hand column, hey, we're talking about a quiz, aren't we? At 2 p.m., right after 1:59 p.m. on Thursday. This will be the routine. Every Thursday, tell you the truth, it's going to be every Tuesday. I changed it. Every Tuesday at 2 o'clock, we're going to have a quiz. Now, not this week, for the simple reason that, I couldn't quiz you on the first day. Couldn't quiz you today. So starting next Tuesday, we have a quiz. And practically every Tuesday, we're going to take some weeks off. But a lot of the Tuesdays are going to have quizzes at 2 p.m. You see the rhythm? You see the routine going? And you will be quizzed on everything you've read since the last quiz. So this should be very easy. I'll try to point it out. I will tend to point it out. Typically, I will point out and specify precisely what is on that quiz. You'll see how I've done that here. Thursday, you're over in the right-hand column, right? Thursday, 8:27, 2 p.m. at the latest. By the way, the quizzes, you don't have to wait till 2 p.m. to take the quizzes. They will typically be posted by 12 or 12:30 on the Tuesday, in this case, the Thursday, in question, right? And you're going to have 25 minutes to take it. So the 2 p.m. is like the absolute last time, the latest time you'd ever want to sit down and actually take the quiz. Try to get the reading done early enough so that you don't feel that pressure to begin the quiz, and it's like 2:03. Because once you start the quiz, you have only 25 minutes to complete the quiz, and then it submits. It auto-submits to me after 25 minutes, okay? So since it's due by 2:30, I have to have the quiz. The quiz just goes dead at 2:30 every week, right? You need to start by 2:05 at the absolute latest. So I would, to be safe, start at 2, right? And maybe to be safe, start even earlier. As I said, I'll try to have them posted by 12 or 1 or so that you'll have a little less frantic, feeling as you go about doing the quiz. Where do you find the quiz? You go to Assessments on the Blackboard website, which is over there in the left-hand column, right over there next to, underneath. I think it's above Content, but I think it's underneath Information. So you'll see it there, and the quiz will be waiting for you, typically by, as I said, by 12 or 1, no later than 2. I'll try to get it there. I don't want to contribute to a sense of frenzy and anxiety, so I will try to post it a little earlier. But the absolute latest I would ever post it would be at 2 o'clock, because you wouldn't have time otherwise to get it done, right? And I believe it's these things, they're actually labeled tests, like it'll say test 1, and it's actually a quiz. And I can't quite recall. I just went through this routine about 2 weeks ago, but I've already forgotten whether I think it's called a test. Anyway, quiz 1, the one that you're going to be taking this Thursday at 2 p.m. at the latest, probably ready for you a little earlier, as I said. Quiz 1 will cover Antigone and Antigone only, and will consist of identifications. Now I'm getting into, what's going to be on the quiz? Well, you'll see I've given you some examples here. I will list a passage and I will say, who is it who's saying this passage, right? Now, there's not going to be a lot of that for the simple reason that, you could, I guess, type it in by way of another tab and just find it out that way without having read the book. So it's a lot of your quizzes are going to be more like content oriented with respect to, what I'm asking you. It'll be uh, stuff like, well, who kills Hyman, right? Who is Mene? What's her role at the climax? How does Antigone die? There'll be these kinds of questions, right? Which will reward those of you who've actually done the reading, right? And I'm presuming and hoping and trusting that it will be every single one of you who's done the reading. I want to say a little something about the quizzes now, with respect to what the ambition is of the quizzes. The whole idea of these quizzes, okay, is to reward you for getting the reading done and to enable you to add a really easy 10 points to your final grade, okay? A good way to describe the quizzes is as follows. They're very easy if you've done the reading. This is also a good way to describe the quizzes. If I've constructed them properly, they're not just easy if you've done the reading, they're practically impossible if you haven't done the reading, right? Or they would be pointless. So, get the reading done, get it done in time, and sit down and take your quiz and lock away those good points, right? And just start adding them up. And they are just, I've noticed, people who do well in the quizzes tend to do well in the course. And they tend to have this nice little cushion, right, of a full 10% averaged into your final grade. So this is a class, it's probably already pretty clear, this is a class that rewards hard work and, stick-to-itness and, sticking with it and not letting it slide, not going elsewhere for a week or two, not checking out, just stick with it. And you will do very well. And that certainly is the case when it comes to the quizzes. Now, I want you to look at on the left-hand column again. You'll see how this goes day by day and time by time. So that the reason why things are separated by these little spaces is that this Thursday, 8:27, 2 p.m. quiz business happens before the thing Friday, 8:28 at 9, which happens before the thing Sunday, 8:30 at 5. Which happens before the thing Tuesday, 9-1 at 1:59. Then we're back in the right-hand column. So it goes sequentially, chronologically by time. I think that's clear enough, and you will be able to, excuse me, read these granular schedules very well very soon, okay? Even if it's a little bit, at this point, a little bit disconcerting. But take a look over there on Friday. You'll see that after Thursday, the next thing that you have to do is you don't even have to do it. You just have to be aware that Friday at 8:20 at noon, Friday 8:28, the discussion questions. We're going to start the discussion board. Okay, this Friday it's going to start. The discussion questions for the following week, and this will happen every week, Friday at noon. I'll start to post questions for the following week on the Blackboard discussions board. Now the discussions board is also over there in the left-hand column on the Blackboard. That operational kind of left-hand lineup that you see over there, right? So it's very easy to find. You can enter the discussions board and you will be able to see the questions posted for you, right? And threads and all that. You'll see the way it works. If you haven't done it before, you will be able to figure it out, I think, very readily. And if you have any trouble, again, just send me a quick email message. You could even call me if you had to, and we could get you fixed up with this, right? Now, I'm going to start Friday at 8:28 on noon. I'm going to start every Friday, except for those very few weeks when we don't have a discussion. There aren't going to be too many of those. But I'm going to start on every Friday at noon, posting questions. I won't always have one right at noon, but I will begin to very seriously, write them up and try to get them in there. I want to give you, those of you who want to work over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, getting ahead of the game, I want to give you every incentive to do so and every opportunity to do so. I will promise you that all the questions will be posted by Sunday, every Sunday of every week, Sunday of this coming week, 8:30 by 5 p.m. So by Sunday at 5 o'clock, you're going to realize that, okay, I have the full complement of questions. I'm not getting any more questions. Typically, there will be 3 questions posted. You'll get your choice of the 3, and you will write a response, okay? If you'll look over there You have to drop down a little bit because some stuff happens in between the posting there on Friday and when your first response to these posted questions is due. If you drop down, look over in the right column and drop below the Q2 Tuesday 9/1 to by Tuesday 9/1 5 p.m. the third entry in the right-hand column. By Tuesday 9/1 5 p.m. discussion answer response due to post hit reply. You'll see you're on a discussion board. It's very easy to figure this out. What I would like you to do is write up a substantial paragraph. It should be well written. It should make claims. It should support its claims by citing and quoting textual evidence. And I'll probably give you a good example to have a look at, okay, from last semester, where I had some people who just did a wonderful job at these discussion boards, and I think you will as well. And I'll give you an example of what looks like a really good, it'll probably be part of one of the early questions that I give you this Friday will include as part of the question an example of what one of these things should look like, okay? Or what it could look like. I almost don't want to do it because I want to see what you're going to come up with, but I'll at least give you a rough target, that you'd want to hit, if not surpass. But just a very thoughtful, well done response, right? Kind of answer response to one of the questions. It should be argumentative. It should make claims. It should support its claims by citing evidence. It should quote evidence from the text, from the work, whatever the work is that's in question, okay? And the discussion board will include all the literary stuff that we're reading, like Antigone. It's also going to include those other things that I'll be having you read that won't typically be on the quizzes, okay? Because as I told you, you will mostly be quizzed, unless I tell you otherwise, you will be quizzed on the literature itself as opposed to the commentaries on the literature. For example, I won't quiz you on Abrams. Abrams is the guy who wrote the handbook. I won't quiz you on his Abrams and Harfin, their handbook entries. You won't be quizzed on. And trust me, you'll be happy for that. But go back over there in the left-hand column. Okay, well, we might as well finish this out. Notice how the discussion board has 2 steps, and I try to make this clear at a couple of different spots on the website here. You have the 5 o'clock p.m. Tuesday discussion answer response, which is due. Then you have on Thursday, 2 days later at the exact same time, to try to keep it as symmetrical as possible at 5 o'clock, you have the comment due. Now, what's a comment? How is it different from the discussion answer response? The comment is a comment, a response, a reaction. Don't want to call it a response. That would help you to confuse the answer response with the comment. The comment is a reaction on your part, okay, to one of your fellow students' discussion answers or responses posted on Tuesday. So what does this mean? What this means is that for Thursday, what I'd like you to do is read through all your fellow students' responses and answer/responses, which are posted by Tuesday at 5 p.m. You have 2 full days to read through them and write a comment on just one of them, okay? And it should be a thorough, critical, I think I comment on this a little bit up above in the information drawer. I think it's on the syllabus. Actually, I think it's in the works, in the coursework file. I give you a little bit more information on this, but your comment should be a constructive engagement with your fellow students' answer response from Tuesday, right? Now, it can be laudatory, it can be celebratory. That's actually very cool if that happens, as long as it's authentic, right? And it can also be critical. It can be, well, you sure just be very polite, be very nice to each other, right? But don't by any means hold back. If you feel that somebody missed something, point it out, right? And let's get some discussion going so that we can work our way towards the best of all possible answers to these questions that I'll be posing you, some of which are going to be really good questions. In other words, not easy ones to answer. So that's what the comment is all about. And do you see the rhythm now? Do you see this kind of routine as it's developing? You read a lot over the weekend. You take a quiz on Tuesday, right? Maybe watch a video midweek. In some cases, I'll have you do it by a certain date. Typically not in time for the quiz, but once we get into the second week, you'll watch a second video and do so by Thursday. So it's not part of the quiz. You'll never be quizzed on the video. But the video will maybe contribute some information that could conceivably show up on the next quiz just by way of like helpful explanation, right? So you really want to watch these videos, right? Um, so you see the routine. You'll do a bunch of reading over the weekend, take a quiz on Tuesday at 2 p.m., right? You'll have over the weekend as you're reading, you'll start to find these questions that are waiting for you, right? You'll have your full complement by Sunday, and you can start to answer them, right? By Tuesday at 5 p.m., that's 3 hours after the quiz, I want your big substantive, long paragraph, well written claims and support and all the rest. I want that done by 5 p.m. Okay, so you see the routine here. Take the quiz at 2. Make sure your discussion answer response is posted by 5. That's all on Tuesday. So Tuesday's a big day in the class. Then Thursday, between Tuesday and Thursday, you might have watched a video. And Thursday at 5 p.m., you got to comment on one of those answer responses, not your own, right? But one of the answer responses of one of your fellow students, comment on it. And then you are done for the week, right? Though it all starts again the next Friday, as you know, the next day. Friday morning, again, it starts for me more than for you, because all that means is that I'll start to post questions at Friday. And what you're going to want to do at that time is, of course, get busy reading the next bit of material, right? So you'll see at the end of this schedule, I say end of the intro, move on to module 1. I don't know that I'll be saying that at the end of every module, because I think you'll know to do it. But you don't want to okay, I guess I'm ready I'm done for the week, and then don't look at the other module until Monday or Tuesday. No, because stuff's due, right? And plus your instructions, you got to know what to read. So, by the way, I'm going to get a couple of modules ahead. I've only posted the first one right now. I'm still doing a few things with the module number 1. But you will not be taken by surprise. I will tend to be at least a module or 2 ahead. So you'll typically have 3 or 4 weeks, maybe even more, all sketched out for you in this granular way. So that when it's time to move on to the next module, you may have already had a look at it, so you know exactly what's waiting for you. Okay, well, this is longer than I expected it to be. Again, if you have any questions, be sure to let me know. Okay, send me an email message over Outlook, because I know this is a lot to take in and a lot to digest. But once again, trust me, very soon you will get in the swing, and things will just start cooking right along. Yeah, so we're back to the Kafka Metamorphosis opera. Can you believe it? The Royal Opera House. Maybe we'll listen to that, a portion of it later on semester. Yeah, well, I'm going to let you go now. If you have any questions what to do next, let me know. My first response will be probably take a look at the pre-module, because you probably can figure it out. I'm guessing that most of you are not going to have a lot of difficulty, negotiating your way through and determining what it is that's being asked of you. So take a good look at it now before you send me a message, but don't hesitate to send me a message if one persists beyond a close look at the information that's been set up for you, okay? I'm looking forward to a great semester with you all, and as you can tell, I'm very excited about the possibility of reading Kafka with you and sharing this extraordinary work of 20th century literature with you. Oh, one more thing, right? We mentioned this business about the office hour. If you're not free at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays, would you drop me a line over Outlook? Okay, now I make it 20 out of 23. I don't know. But drop me a quick email message. I could reschedule that. That is very tentative, right? And I might be able to find an hour where more people are free, right? And not have to make it like Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. And if this turns out that we can't really find one of these hours where a lot of people are free, don't sweat it if you're one of the ones who's not free, because we can rely upon appointments, which work very well. You just send me a message and say, can you talk today at 3:30? I say, sure, or I say, no, but what about tomorrow at 2? And we work something out, and we get to have our conversation. So let's be cool about that. I think it's going to work out. You will see, as I say below, wouldn't it be nice to, in this COVID era of spatial social distancing. I think it ought to be called spatial distancing. This COVID era of social distancing, right, where in fact we have been effectually socially distanced one from the other. Again, I would prefer the phrase I accidentally used a moment ago, spatial distancing. I think I would prefer, right? Because need there be social distancing? In any event, we have been socially distanced to the point, by these asynchronous formats that it's conceivable that I wouldn't even know what you looked like. And that's not exactly like the academic ideal, I think, right? So let's see whether we can set something up at some point. Don't sweat this one either. If you've got something to do, you want to remain fairly anonymous, you will be able to. This is optional. But I think it's something we ought to try to do at some point, early on too, not like after 5 or 6 weeks. So have a good week. You, I think, know what to do. You have a quiz on Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Read a lot between now and then. Make sure to take your quiz. I'll be back in touch by way of these videos as well as by way of Outlook before you know it. So bye-bye.